Radio.com.
KCAA.
No matter what it is in life that you want, you gotta go out there and get it. Just don't let it come to a sleeper but a dream. Never give up on your goals, stay focused on you. Focus your view, succeed, cause I'm hoping you do. Keep climbing up the ladder, cause the key to success. Go hard and go home, never settle for less. Life is stress, but we gotta deal with it, homie. Send a prayer to the man to put a shield on it. Work hard for what you get, appreciate what you got. You can always improve, just don't stop. Going for your dream to achieve in your life. Gotta take a chance like rolling the dice. It won't come to you, so you gotta
team?
go.
This is Robert Porter and Ipiani Lockhart with the I Love San Bernardino County radio show on KCAA NBC 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, where we will talk politics, culture, and history. Today we have an incredible show set up. Ipiani, what's going down?
Awesome. We have our amazing guests here to kind of give us the history of the African American community throughout the Inland Empire. So I'll let our guests introduce yourself, and we'll start with Professor Jennifer.
Hey, I'm Jennifer Tilton. I'm a professor at University of Redlands in ethnic studies, and I have the pleasure of working with a Bridges project, which we'll talk a little bit about, and a People's History of the IE, both projects that are building archives and trying to build public history stories that lift up the diverse stories of our region.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
And I'm Romaine Washington. I'm a local poet and retired ELA teacher. And the Bridges That Carried Us Over project has been life transforming for me in a lot of ways. When you talk about learning about your elders and how they impact you, and that People's History website, oh my gosh, you have to go on that website. But
Definitely.
I'm already getting into the other stuff. So basically, I'm a poet, and they just finished at the Civil Rights Institute showing little clips of my poems with some of the photography about the IE, which was a wonderful experience. And I know you'll give me a chance to plug what I'll be doing.
Definitely. We'll have a chance to plug.
And an old hand on the I Love San Bernardino show. She was just on.
Yeah, with the talent show.
Yes.
Definitely.
So, like, we have a talent show segment, and then we have an interview segment.
Yes.
And when you're very, very, very talented.
Yes, indeed. There you go.
That's how we do it on this show. Right?
Amen.
I'd like to mention our sponsors, Celebrities Bar and Grill over on 40th. Thank God they're doing some renovations over there. Yeah. So Max has been online telling everybody about it. They're putting in they're having to jackhammer out the cement in the floor, which has been a major issue.
Gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like, when you're running a business and you have to jackhammer the floor.
That's a lot.
Yeah, because it's just hard. You lose business, and then also the business owners that own the property, they don't always want to fix those super expensive things. They want to stick a rotor through it.
Right.
But it will be, he's fixing it right now. They'll be up and running come next week.
Beautiful.
I'm sure Lo and Max is going to have some deals and
some
some cool stuff going on over there, and we'll definitely keep you informed. So thank you, Max and Zoe, for all you do, and we're here to support you, and especially when you set celebrities back up with some of those steak specials.
Hey now,
Yeah,
$9.99.
Tacos, I'll take it. I'll take any of it. I'd also like to mention our standout of the week is all the volunteers that helped with the fire, and then of course our brave firefighters and first responders. I mean, our police officers, don't forget them. Even public safety officers out there, they're all directing traffic, helping set up these centers. The Red Cross is out there working hard. I mean, I know there's been some complaints about media coverage and things like that, but give them a break, team. It's more about protecting lives,
Hey, man. Come
right?
on now.
Than
That's the
keeping
main
you informed. Now, I understand if you feel in danger, get out of there,
Yes,
right?
move, yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Don't wait for an evacuation order. If you feel anxious, leave, right?
And
that's easier said than done.
Yes, I know. I do understand, but
definitely, and as well as no one wants to ever leave their house, right?
Right.
But if your house is in the area of threat, be wise. Get your keepsakes, get your documentation, get your medicine. Have that stuff in the car ready to go.
Yes.
The things that cannot be replaced, as well
Photos
as your
that
life.
you've printed out, which you should be doing anyways.
Totally.
Yes, please print your photos. A little side
Definitely
note.
things that you want to, things that you would be heartbroken if you lost. You know, so have all that stuff ready. Your medication as well, all the things you need for your day to day as well, and have that ready to go. Hopefully, no one has to leave, but you don't. Your life is worth more than that house. The house is everything
check
can
on
be
your mama
replaced.
and papa, your,
Totally.
your elders.
Definitely check in if you have family in these areas of threat as well. Definitely.
And if and also if you do feel like you can't get in contact with them, you might want to go check on them, or have some sheriffs or someone go check on them as well, because there may not be cell coverage or problems as well.
And you know, Kaiser contacted me, which they are really good at giving you, you know, information. And before I left the house, they said, if you are sensitive,
Air quality.
your inhalers. Make sure you have your inhalers with you. So.
Oh, well, thank you for braving the smoke and
Both
coming
of
here
you,
today.
both of you.
We appreciate that very much. I know it's dangerous out there. We've seen 3 fires around.
Yeah, man.
Very scary.
For real. I've never seen, I don't think I've ever seen 3 big fires like this happening at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So if you do wish to be informed, I'm trying to keep everything. You can go to CAL FIRE. Eric, do you have those numbers on you?
Yeah, as of about 2 hours ago, it's 21,000 acres that have been lit, and it's only 3% contained.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So it's spreading out everywhere. It's starting to move into some of the areas by Oak Glen. And I seen active fire going up the 330 area, active fire on Harrison Peak. It's moving up that way. It just looks scary. And then the big fire over there on Mount Baldy, you can't even see it.
Right.
No,
That's a little
yeah.
scary. I'm like, whoa.
Smoke, yeah.
Now we have to realize we had a lot of rain for 2 years in a row. So that's plants love rain, and then it got really hot.
Yeah,
So,
so there's a lot of things that can burn out there.
yeah, so let's keep our fingers crossed. So hopefully some monsoons and
Yeah, hopefully so. That would be
Monsoons.
a blessing. For real. Tidal
No,
waves.
they
of
call
water.
them flash floods here.
Yeah, I hear you.
great idea. And those are the I Love San Bernardino standouts of the week. Our firefighters, we love you very much. And that is brought to you by Ben Chavez and First Lineage Site Services. Thank you, Ben, for helping keeping us informed for this different segment. And then he's also been showcasing locals. I think we're on number 22 in Boy. So
Okay.
yeah, we're moving close
Awesome.
to 2 years. That's
Awesome.
incredible. Thank you, Ben. We appreciate you,
Beautiful,
dude. We really do.
beautiful.
Let's get started on this show. I'm going to skip the history tidbit
Okay.
because we are going to dive into some
history.
doctor's history.
Definitely.
Yes,
But before we
yes.
dive in, I just want to go around and hear about everyone's weekend. And starting with you, Robert, because I know you did a number of exciting things over the weekend.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to mention 3 Shades of Lou. We had an incredible time. I got to do the red carpet interviews. Tanya Rhodes Hensley and Mac Rome did the the hosting, and there was a little side things by like Damon Alexander and Frank Montez. So
All right.
the Black Chamber was all there.
Yeah.
It was just it was really. She said the intimate side of Lou.
There you
right?
go. There you
Yeah,
go.
it really was. She changed. I hope you don't get mad at me, but it kind of reminded me of the work ethic of Lady Gaga. Right?
Oh,
You know,
okay.
she changes her wardrobe.
I hear
and
you.
it goes
Yeah.
right back
Right.
up.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
And
beautiful.
then managing everything and like so that was on that was awesome and shout out to Chrissy for the incredible
the food.
yeah
Okay.
that fried chicken and the cornbread
Hey, now.
the greens the cornbread was really sweet. It was almost
Yes,
like pudding.
yes.
Yeah.
And then like fried chicken has to be moist inside. It can't be dry.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
moist. So
I hear you.
it's her girls that do that.
Yeah,
so, but we appreciate that food was there at the end of that event.
Amen,
That was
amen.
really cool.
Definitely.
We were worried about the fire, and I have not stopped working team really. I've gotten little sleep. Having smoke coming into the house with a swamp cooler is no
Yeah.
fun. And then everybody wants to be informed all night long. So I'm trying to be that for you. It's hard to wake up every hour in the middle of the night and then add the posts. But sometimes there's 40 posts in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So these people need my support. So I am just breathing in smoke. That is nothing compared to worrying about a house.
No, word up,
Yes,
right.
yes.
That's low on
So
the totem pole.
that's all I've been doing. But fun with Amy. That's sure what we got all
Amen.
dressed up.
Y'all were looking all
Yeah,
lovely
great-
out there,
great
looking like some
time.
lovebirds
Yeah,
out there.
And the home garden thing, she made homemade pesto. So we
Beautiful.
picked the basil and got the pine nuts and all that stuff.
Do you guys harvest your own pine nuts?
Oh, I wish. Yeah, that would be super awesome.
No, for real.
Yeah, we
I-
might be-
I watched a video on how to do it, right? So I might try to. We need to go up there and
I bet
forage.
you it's labor intensive.
It is like
Yeah.
you have to get the fresh pine cones and then they kind of smash it with a rock and stuff like that. Then they pull them out, but it's free. And
I personally know the Native American technique for heating up pine cones, and then
Wow.
you heat them green around the fire, and then they open up, and then everything
oh,
falls
that's
right
why
out.
I get super
wow.
fresh ones.
Yeah.
I hear you. See, pro tip.
The
Instead of-
archaeologist in me.
I'm on my caveman.
Yeah. I could go full caveman, and I'm ready. I'll have all kinds of followers. Follow me to the hills and the nearest springs, and we'll
There
be
you go.
protected. But as we move on, what would you like to mention
What was
for
your
your beautiful
weekend?
day?
How was your weekend?
Well, I sang karaoke at a friend's birthday party in
Oh,
downtown LA.
All
for,
right,
like, the
look at
first time.
you.
It was
Look at
fun.
you.
Oh, I don't know. We were singing all kinds of songs. It was great because it was low stakes karaoke. It was like we were all in a room and kind of all singing together.
Okay, okay.
And so it didn't feel like I had to perform.
by yourself.
Or
Yeah.
you weren't isolated.
I
They
wasn't
couldn't
isolated.
pick
so it was
you
like
out.
everyone was singing. Yeah, it was super fun.
Oh, that sounds
Beautiful,
fun.
beautiful.
That is fun.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
There you go. how about yourself, Romaine?
On Saturday, there's a group called Women Who Submit, and we're about writing and encouraging each other to submit our work.
Beautiful.
And so we have a Saturday check-in, the first and third Saturday on Zoom, and I did that, and that was wonderful.
That is a really powerful
Yeah,
title for that
submit, yeah.
group.
Yeah,
Right?
Yes.
I love
It's
that.
stealing the word back. I love stealing words back.
Yeah, submit is the power of submission.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, this was my second time visiting New Life Christian Church
definitely.
with Pastor Sam
Casey,
and
yeah.
Sam Casey and his wife Tamika, and it was wonderful.
Definitely. Shout out to Pastor Casey and shout out to COPE. He's also the executive
Yes.
director of COPE. And COPE stands for Congregations Organized for Prophetic Engagement. So,
Yes.
great man, great family, just a man of the community, not only in the spiritual side, but on the activist side, making actual change for our community as well.
Yes.
So shout out to COPE once again.
Beautiful.
And definitely, to answer the question for myself, Yanni, what did you do over the weekend? Well, I had the wonderful opportunity to attend an ACLU event out in Covina, where they had a little gathering with people that are organizing throughout the inland region or inland empire. I say the IE funders
Yes.
refer to this area as the inland region, right? But so it was a good time. It was at this brewery over in Covina called the Campsite, and it's kind of behind the walls. But once you go behind the walls, it looks like you're out in the mountains, and they had a fire pit and
wow.
trees, and it's just really cool vibes. They have a wonderful assortment of beverages. I didn't get anything because I don't drink and drive, you know what I mean? But they had a wonderful selection of beverages, and they also had a lot of great food as well. So if you're looking, and they're very open to the community. So if you're looking for a venue to host a gathering or have an event at, please consider the Campsite Brewery in Covina.
And 2 weeks, you went and saw Russell, right?
The other weekend, I got to go down to San Diego to see Noah James and Cam Gnarly with the very majestic and very positive music tour. They're some hip hop artists, right? And they've been traveling throughout the states. They were in Texas, Arizona, Nevada. I know they'll be heading up to San Francisco later on this week. So it was a great time, and also always good seeing Rusty.
Rusty going in
shout out to
the house,
Rusty,
yeah.
to the HQ and everything like that. And brothers
I liked
doing
your
well.
art pictures of him, man.
Oh yeah, those
Yeah.
messing with that photo,
Yeah,
that
but-
Lightroom.
But was there a bar somewhere?
Oh,
around that scene?
there was. It was at
You
the
having
Black
some
Cat.
fun?
I had an IPA down there. It was good, because it was like a 3-hour event. So if I do drink, it has to be like a long window event, and then I try to get my drinks drinks in at the very
Yes,
beginning so you
yeah.
could, pass it
Yeah,
through,
yeah.
because
Well, that's-
I'm already
lead by-
driving
lead
while
by
black,
example,
you know what
yeah.
I mean?
That's-
So definitely.
we want you to go have a good time too. It's great that you saw Rusty too.
But Rusty is abstaining from liquor, so that's good. So
Mm.
whatever you like. They had a variety of drinks. They had non-alcoholic brews as well. So they had a nice assortment. So if you're sober, that's fine. You're welcome. If you want to get turned up and lit, that's
Yeah.
fine too, in moderation, of course.
I
Right?
never
Call
drink
it
at a
Uber.
bar, but I still have a great time.
Yeah,
Yes,
totally.
yes.
It was a wonderful
Get my
time.
water.
There you go. Hey, after my IPA, I had 2 glasses of water after that. Got to flush it out.
Or at celebrities, I get the virgin, mango daiquiri.
There you
If
go.
wanna try
There you
it,
go.
you can
There you
try
go.
it.
Let's get the plug out
There's the
there.
classic Shirley Temple.
Yep.
Hey, yeah.
Can't go
Those
wrong.
are good. Yes.
Definitely. But see, I'm a diabetic, so I have to steer away from the
okay,
sweets.
yes,
You know what I mean?
yes.
So
Well, any alcohol, really, you should.
yeah, that's in
Where is
truth.
that?
In truth, that is correct. But I think it's not as much sugar in comparison to like a Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
Let me have my happy place. With that being
I think
said,
we all have one of those spots, dude.
hey, the A1C is 5.7, so I'm in
Hey,
range.
well,
I'm in a
I'm
great
gonna go
place.
hang out there. I'll be back.
Well, with that being said, we have an amazing show today, and I know that you guys have been working on the bridge that has carried us over project.
Yes, and that's from a quote from Fannie Lou Hamer.
Okay.
Yes,
Definitely.
yes.
Dive on in.
Give the history of the bridges. You go.
Oh my gosh, no, you're not. Okay, so
Surprise.
I can tell you, when I went to look for history about San Bernardino, all I saw was none of me. There were no books about Black people in San Bernardino at all.
Yeah,
except for-
mostly just segments. Yeah, it's
not,
very
not even,
segmented.
but not even that. It was just
Not
there
much,
was
not much.
I can't remember her name now.
Lizzie
There was
Flake- Lizzie
yes,
Flake
yes.
Rowan, yes,
So there were a couple
yeah,
mentions
Biddy
about
Masson.
that, and one time about Muhammad Ali coming through. But other than
Yep,
that,
but it needs
you
more,
wouldn't
yes.
know that we were part of the infrastructure, that we had a powerful presence,
Yes,
and we
indeed.
helped to affect change in a lot of
Let me
ways.
give the Black boys a little bit of love. They do sometimes history segments in there. So
Well,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
now,
yeah.
but I'm talking
Oh, in the
about,
past.
the
Growing up.
history. Yeah, because I wanted to write my memoir, and I wanted to in verse, and I wanted to make sure. I started off writing about a library that was a local library I used to walk to. And in my mind, I had named the library the Mary Bethune Library, and it was really the Mary Kellogg Library. But in my mind, I made it.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this poem, and then I said, I better check myself. And I couldn't find, that's when I started looking. I was like, well, where are we? Where are we? The 1950s, 40s, 60s, 70s, 70s. We were nowhere in the history of any of the books that I could find. I had to start going to the library and culling through the archives just to find out about Norton Air Force Base, where, my dad was military, and to find...
Newspapers.com.
Yeah.
If you haven't tried it, you get a
Yes.
7-day free trial. So there you have no excuse.
Yes, nowadays.
Yes.
We have what we've been working on. And let me swing back to, I'm not the only person that noticed this omission. There, Wilmer Amina Carter and her husband, Ratibu J. Cox.
yes.
Yes.
Rest in peace.
They realized our voices are missing, and we know so many powerhouse people. So they started interviewing in I'm trying to remember.
I think the first interviews were 2003.
Yes. That's when they started the interviews, and doctors, lawyers. There's so much, it's so rich. And so they started the archive, and then personal challenges got in the way. Ratibu passed on,
away.
and then Amina lost her daughter.
They
and
got
so-
some of it. That is awesome.
Well,
Got a lot.
they did get a lot. And one thing about Wilmer Amina Carter,
And former assemblywoman.
yes, and has a school named after
Yes,
her.
indeed, in Rialto High
She's
School.
still formidable. As a matter of fact, the first time I met her, the first thing she said to me is, are you a member of NCNW? And I was like,
plug.
no, National Council of Negro
Yeah,
Women,
yes.
the IE section. And I was like, no. She said, well, you need to join.
You are now.
Yeah, because when I met Lois Carson, that's the first thing she said to me. And I was just like, okay, so I'm definitely going to join. And
Amen,
so
amen.
I keep their website. I'm their historian now.
There you go.
But she started the bridges that carried us over. And then it lay dormant for a little while because of the challenges. And then we have Dr. Tilton. I was doing my own little
Yeah.
thing, and Dr. Tilton came, and we talked, and then she got in touch with Wilmer Amina
There you
Carter,
go.
and then had the resources from the university. And with that, I'm going to
Yeah.
pass it
Yeah.
on to you.
Well, so
And she is excited. I love this. Very good.
Well,
Amazing
so I have
professor.
a different version of the same story, right?
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
that. I think that is true for lots of folks. So I moved here and I started teaching in an ethnic studies program, and I was like, I want my teaching to be local. So I was looking for the archives and the history that would let me teach Black history, Mexican history, Native history of the IE. And again, it was hard to find, right? And so I began cultivating. Actually, Cheryl Brown at Black Voice News
Yes.
had always written these columns, right, where she was
Little
lifting
segments.
up the Black history of the region. And so I would invite her
She
to my
lifts
class.
up the whole community. She
No,
really tries
absolutely,
hard.
yeah.
Yes, she is.
And I would invite her to my class and be like, when are you writing the book? And she was like, I don't have time to write the book. I'm too busy, doing other stuff. And so finally she said, you got to go talk to Amina because she also does this stuff. And
Okay.
then you can stop bothering me and you can go bother. And so she connected Amina and I, and it became clear that it would be helpful to just put some energy and time, and my own time, and then my students' time, and other students and faculty in the region. So really as a kind of fluid collaboration, which really builds on the history of bridges, because Amina did this with volunteers, right, the whole time,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
So
yes.
Cal State said, hey, we will host your archive, and trained community volunteers that Retibu
Go Yotes.
and
Yes.
and Amina just kind of brought in, right? So
Yes.
Carolyn Tillman, lots of other folks
Yeah,
did
yeah.
interviews for years. But a lot of the interviews were kind of sitting on hard drives and hadn't been processed because, it takes money and time to process all that and get it visible and get it
Yeah.
online. And so we sort of just got together and began to put some of that legwork behind
Definitely.
it.
And the resources.
And resources. And so a lot of the oral histories, I think there are now over 150 oral
Yes.
histories that
Yes.
we've done.
Beautiful.
Many were done before, we joined the effort.
Yes.
And then during the pandemic is actually was another kind of kick in the pants because we realized, folks
We're losing people.
we're losing folks.
Yes.
And that there were a lot of people in their 80s and 90s who hadn't been interviewed yet. And or who, Amina, as we would talk, she'd be like, you got to go back and interview Lois Carson again because I don't think we got, we looked through the stories people shared. And we were like, wow, there's some gaps still in the archive. So Amina would then kind of give us marching orders, go interview this person. Or, there was a list of people who hadn't been interviewed.
Yeah.
Which include people like Henry Hooks, right? An
Yeah.
amazing community photographer.
Definitely.
And so we began then doing interviews online during the pandemic on Zoom. Right?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful.
And building that. And then Amina also had collected tons of photos and papers and stuff. Retibu built her
She had
buildings.
I love
Yeah.
how,
Yeah.
and it was all organized.
All organized.
And when we say huge amounts, she was really an archivist.
She was an
before,
archivist, yeah.
She didn't give herself that title.
Is it digitized?
Well,
Is
so
it, is it in,
It's
it's,
becoming-
it's in the
it's
process.
in this
Coming,
process.
yes,
So
yes.
so all of that material has now been sort of transferred to Cal State. They're processing
Then all
it.
the kids
It's-
can use it.
Right,
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
right.
and that's actually really exciting because,
Yes.
right now, Mark Robinson, who's at Cal State and is a historian, and is one of the key, academic partners leading this
Yes.
work too. He has a class he's teaching on kind of civil rights history, and they're going into the archives
archive.
and they're pulling out
Yes.
documents and they're finding.
And making it super real
Yeah.
on a
Yes.
local,
Exactly.
personal,
Yeah,
the community
exactly.
you
Because
dwell
then
in.
it's
Yeah.
really inspiring because it's not just like W.B. Du Bois or people that
Yes,
seem
so far away.
unreal.
Yeah.
These are people that are within the
your
community.
parents
Yes.
grew up with. Your parents
Yes,
knew.
yes.
Right. And that places in your community are named after.
Yes,
Right?
Yes,
And but you don't know
yes.
who they are. And
Yes.
I mean, the other impetus for me doing this work actually came from an organizer with Cope, who was my former student, who also, as a college student who grew up her whole life in the IE, came to me and she was like, I don't know where the Black community is
You
here.
can shout her out.
Okay, so this is Jewel Patterson.
Shout out to Coach.
Shout out to Jewel. And she growing up in the IE, the for a young person growing up in the 2000s, the Black community wasn't visible in a way that it was when
Right.
you were growing up, right? And even
Yes.
then it wasn't. Yeah.
Because we had the redlining,
Right.
and so the
There's
Black
these-
communities, it
was
was
segregated,
unofficial,
right.
unofficial
Yeah.
redlining. You can't look on a map like you can in Los Angeles, but it was definitely there.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but it was like the Black Mayberry RFD in my growing up experience where we lived, which was wonderful. And then nowadays, just like back then, for Black community, you go to the Black churches.
Right.
And yeah.
Definitely. On that note, if you could share the first piece that you have, Romaine, and then if you could fill us in with the history attached to the person that she's speaking to, maybe that could be the.
Oh, interesting.
Why don't you start with Amina? 'Cause-
Okay,
Because
okay.
we were just talking about
There we
Amina.
go.
So
There
that,
you
yeah.
go.
And one of the interesting things about these poems, and you think people just sit down and write a poem and it's done and you move on to the next one. But as they're always going
Yeah.
through transition.
Iteration.
This is going to be totally different when I get done. It's actually going to be 3 different poems, but
Okay.
right now it's all one, and
All
I
right.
can already hear the difference. So, if you've ever been to the South at night, it's pitch velvety black. In my hometown in Mississippi, in the pitch velvety black, it's an easy place to hang a man on a Saturday night when you are bored and white. But if the Black Masons found out, the Prince Hall Masons found out, they'd sneak that man out of the country, out of the county, before the fire was lit, before the rope was flung for that Black man to be hung. If you needed saving, Prince Hall Masons were the one. In the pitch velvety black of Mississippi nights, Masons had a hiding place where Blacks and Choctaws would meet to learn to read, to learn to write, so we could sign our names on a deed, to learn math, to learn what it means to own property. They taught my grandfather, and my grandfather taught me. My whole life has been stories about my grandfather, who worked on a farm, saved his money, bought his first acre of land we still own today.
Amen.
My whole life has been stories about my grandfather, who built the bridges from which I see the world. He'd say I'm smart, and I had to not let the fact that I am Black, that I am female, get in the way. My whole life is the stories my grandfather planted in me. Let it feed my spirit every day. When I sojourned from Mississippi to California, I studied, went to SBVC and CSUSB, mentored by Lois Carson, joined NCNW, and the AKA's acronyms for excellent and success, a rich legacy in history. My whole life has been stories about my grandfather, who built a bridge of wisdom for me, taught me the power of community. I became an assemblywoman with a namesake high school. My husband, Ratibu, by my side, we served in church together. Together, we built the bridges of oral history, housed in Fowl Library. You can hear the pitch velvety black drums of griot elders' wisdom, stories, building bridges to carry you over.
I like those changes.
Beautiful. And that's from Amina Carter.
Yes, that's from, and actually it was from me sitting and listening to her tell her stories, and the pitch velvety black, that was her.
She said
talking.
that.
Yes,
I hear you.
yes.
I hear you.
And
Is it pitch velvety black?
it's
The
night
darkness of
that's
night.
that thick. The
Yeah.
black just it's the dark in the South. That's
In
a
the
whole
country?
nother
Yeah.
Because
level
they don't have
of
a
black.
lot of street lights like how we had.
Oh my gosh! And so it is.
Don't get into that.
I remember when I moved to Georgia and just the dark, and I thought, oh my gosh, if I ever got murdered, they'd never find me.
I'm glad you're back here in
One
California.
of the things,
I love it. I love it.
One of the things that really stands out to me about this poem, but also that you hear in a lot of the oral histories and bridges, is the connections people have to home, right? To
Yes,
back home, to the
yes.
South, that they brought with them. And the connections sometimes are like institutional, like folks had the Prince Hall Masonic Lodge back home, and they built it here,
Yes,
right?
Definitely.
Folks talk about, the gardens they had back home, and then the gardens they built here, right?
Yes.
And the ways that people, kept alive a lot of those that history,
Yes.
and used those networks to kind of
Yes.
to forge community here.
And then there was also in the oral history to survive coming from, and two, you learned how to listen to advice.
I hear you.
Don't go here, go there. This is where you can buy. This is where you shouldn't buy. And so community was a form of survival as well.
Yes, indeed.
And so,
And I still think it is today.
Yeah.
I still think it is today.
And let us not forget the way that we're putting this information out there, the poetry itself, that you're flowing.
it's another oral.
Yeah, so it helps.
Yes,
like
indeed.
if you're, sometimes history can be a burden to read.
Well, and that's the fun thing about collaborating with poets and other kinds of artists is they're able to bring some of the history to life, right?
Amen.
And so
Well
we have
said,
these
well
tiny
said.
fragments, right?
Yeah,
of-
yeah.
of
Have you
history.
guys been in newspapers.com and like, is that the
Yes.
what word is
Yes.
that?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yes.
With that being said, if you could share your second piece, and then whoever that piece is about, because we've got about less than 20 minutes left,
Maybe
Okay.
do Henry Hooks, and we can
and
talk
then
about
you can talk about
Yes.
Henry Hooks.
And
provide
so
some
I
history.
just want to say, I talked about NCNW and
Yes.
that was their AKAs, as we know, our sorority, and San Bernardino Valley College, if this goes out to anybody who's not local.
Go Wolverines.
So that they'll know. Yes, and CSUSB is Cal State University.
Go
San
Yodis.
Bernardino. Yes, so I just wanted to
Definitely.
clarify that. And so this was a persona poem, meaning
Okay.
I was speaking it as though I was Wilmer Amina Carter. And so is the Henry Hooks poem that I'm getting ready to share.
All
with
right.
you.
And Henry Hooks was the photographer. I believe.
Yes, and then the title of his poem is Eyes of San Bernardino.
All right. All right.
Cameraman. I wear my camera like a badge. Show mama how lucky I am, winning my Kodak Retina in a toothpaste contest. Mama says, it isn't luck. Every good and perfect gift comes from God. Christened myself photographer. Study with local newspaper men to develop and frame history. I learned you must always be ready to see the truth quietly floating like hummingbird wings. World War II. I frame history, capture Black soldier stories, homesick boot camp boys line up for portraits, fearless, determined gaze, ready for battle. They pose for victory's promise to return to mother's oxtails and red beans and rice and sweetheart's arms in the scent of evening in Paris. We pose for victory and pledge to fight an unarmed war against Jim Crow when we come home alive. From weeping willow humid south, my pretty wife Opal by my side, we migrate to tumbleweed arid desert west. At Norton Air Force Base, dry heat and Santa Ana's carry oven ripe aroma of orange groves. Ownership, 1943, San Bernardino community. A brotherhood of Black men pool money, GI bills and pride in hand. We buy Prince Hall Masonic Lodge number 17, vow to keep each other safe. We invisible elevator operators, we invisible shoe shine men, we invisible barbers and maintenance men respectably underestimated, clean cut, punctual, perfected smiles allow us to hear unsheeted enemies and know sympathetic friends. In a brotherhood of masonry, we build an unarmed army to fight West Coast Jim Crow, while Eastern Star beauties serve up catfish, collard greens, black-eyed peas, and cornbread, peach cobbler, and sweet tea laughter dancing with our teeth. We feast to raise funds to help those in need. And I feel like San Bernardino belongs to me. Field of vision. I wear my camera like a badge for Cheryl Brown's Black Voice News, a lifetime of photos of the IE, planting of New Hope Missionary Baptist Church and St. Paul AME, our Black baseball team, debutante balls, visits from General Colin Powell, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and sweet pretty Ruby Dee. Photos delivered all around for Quaker Congressman Brown. When San Bernardino belonged to me, Kaiser still was burning bright. Santa Fe was a bustling train hub. Black history parades marched through downtown in front of the finest shops. Norton Air Force Base flew round the clock. We thought we'd always be an all-American city when I wore my camera like a badge.
Beautiful, beautiful.
It is a badge.
Yeah, yeah.
I've also told me it's like a shield.
I like, yes, yes.
People are definitely, they wonder what what are you doing there? That was beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
he is a true artist.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
You've watched San Bernardino
Yeah.
become.
All-American city.
Well, and so Romaine had the pleasure of doing a couple of interviews with Henry
Yes.
Hooks before he died, and
Beautiful
beautiful, beautiful interviews. And
Yes.
those interviews, along with the photos that he took, because he
Yes.
really started taking. He moved here in 1944 or 43. I can't remember.
45,
Anyway.
In the 40s.
43.
43.
Yes.
And he started taking photos immediately, right? So we have these photos of,
Yes.
the New Hope Missionary Baptist Church
Yeah.
deacon, group of
Yes.
deacons, like sitting in the old church that's now gone, right, on the west
Yes.
side. And so we have these glimpses, but then we also have this oral history that Romaine did with him. And those pieces have let us really piece together some of the early civil rights history,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And some of this
Yes.
is going down those rabbit holes of newspapers.com and putting the pieces
And
together.
actually, his work too is right there. So
His
you
work is
Yes.
right there. So
Yes,
then
it
you can
is.
bring them
You
to life.
have,
So
you have photos for
right.
your. Oh, that's
so as just an example,
Genius.
right? In that interview, he just in passing talks about how he felt San Bernardino belonged to him because there were
Yes.
all these people who owned businesses, all these kind of, and he mentions a couple names, right? He just name drops them, right?
Yes.
Like, and one of them was like, W.S. Johnson, he was an impressive man and he had these impressive sons. And then he goes on to list like a son who was a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist. We're talking like in the 20s, right?
I hear you.
Yes.
So he mentions these few names, and then I go down this rabbit
I
hole
hear
for
you.
like a
More
number of
leads.
years.
I hear you.
Because that, like one comment from him, let us see that, this history that you refer to in the poem of the Prince Hall Masonic Lodge actually starting in the 20s, buying a building basically a corner on the west side on Paris and 8th. That was a business center for the Black community. So they built a 2-story tall building that on the first floor had like 3 or 4 businesses. On the second floor, the Prince Hall Masonic Lodge met. There was, happening dance parties. But there
they
was
were
also
always-
political organizing.
But they were always also, those dance parties were fundraisers.
Yes,
Everything was
exactly.
fundraising for people that were in need,
Yes.
that couldn't get loans.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
would help each
Kind
other.
of like
Yes.
how the Masons in Wilma
Yes.
Carter's piece, right?
Yes.
How the person that might be potentially being lynched, how they would get in
Yes.
and that same kind of
rescue
love
them.
and
Yes.
rescue to still,
Yes.
Well,
you know.
and these networks, right,
Yeah.
that we start to see forging, buying these buildings
Yes.
are the same people who start the NAACP in San
That
Bernardino
were-
in 1918.
That social media is stolen from
Right.
us that we need to get back to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so folks, folks don't know. I mean, you might remember Johnson Hall is named after this
hear
guy,
you.
right?
Yes.
W.S. Johnson,
Okay.
right? So there's a building on the west side still named after him.
There you go. There
But
you
no
go.
one really remembers his story.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
kind of piecing together those out of the oral histories, and then actually we have a photo of that building that was
Yes.
taken by
Are
Henry
you getting an
Hooks.
article in the Black Voice News every? You should get an article at least.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I really believe that would be awesome.
Okay, Black Voice News again.
It sounds like it's on its way. It sounds like it's on.
Artie, what's up, dude?
Definitely,
We have
definitely.
Next time I see him, I'll throw that idea.
We have definitely collaborated with Black Voice News. So
Definitely.
like when we were working, coming again out of these oral
Yes,
histories on
yes.
telling the history of redlining.
Oh yeah, there was
right?
this whole
Yeah.
thing on housing.
So
that
they
was in,
did a
yes.
series on redlining
Yes.
and racial discrimination in
Totally.
housing,
Yes.
and we
and
and
he
bridges.
loves to dabble in San Bernardino politics.
So who does? Oh, Hardy Brown?
Yes,
Yeah.
I love
Well,
reading his stuff.
Hardy Brown Sr. is
Fun.
also knows everything, right? So
Yes,
when we,
yes.
so when we have questions about who was who back in the day in the 40s and 50s and 60s,
Yes.
both because he's done a lot of research and because he was a youngster in the 60s when he moved here. So folks like Cheryl Brown and Hardy Brown can often help us piece
And
together.
Bobby Bivens.
And Bobby Bivens, right? So there are elders who are still, with us, who
Yes.
really can help us tell some of the stories.
As we are kind of getting close to rounding to home base, I know if you could select this was
The last
one, the
one.
last one,
Yes.
whatever one,
Yes.
and then
Yes. And as we talked about some of those names, if there is a memoir by Miss Dorothy Ingram called Beyond All This, and as she tells the story of her growing up and living here.
just want to point out that's the library on the west side, the Dorothy Ingram.
There's two places, and I mentioned both of them in this
Oh,
poem.
okay.
And so we'll,
Okay.
but y'all are going to help me with this poem.
Okay.
This is my, I always have one where you got to
call and
participate.
response,
Yes,
call and response, yes.
So our response for this is more than enough.
More than enough.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
More than enough.
Okay, so when I raise my hand, you guys are going to say?
More than enough.
Okay. This is called Beyond All This, which was the title of her memoir.
More than enough. No.
Let's see. Inheriting filthy, fingerprint smeared, used textbooks with torn and missing pages in your hands. They were.
More than enough.
You taught us that a book is just thoughts bound by a theme. Our theme was learning to succeed beyond all this. Dorothy, you were our living book of what focus and fortitude could achieve. In 1941, Valley Truck Farms, Mill Street, one-room schoolhouse, we housed
More than enough.
hope. It's not the building that builds character, knowledge, or parents' pride. In the glimmering sun of your well-honed mind, you balanced hearing, but not listening to the hissing, whispered dares. Let's see what she does. You walked across those whispers like they were stepping stones. Your elevated principles were
More than enough.
to elevate you to principal, then superintendent of our segregated one-room school district. Segregation sewed us together with a common cause. When you were set up, then set aside, when they traveled you down from segregated superintendent to integrated classroom teacher. You taught us that it's not the title, but what you do when you arrive. Beyond all this, it needs to be
More than enough.
in 1977, the year San Bernardino won the title of All-American City, the New Hope Family Center and Library bears your name. In 2017, you were posthumously revered as the Harriet Tubman of Education on Carnegie Drive. The Learning Center adorns your name. In 2023, Poetry Out Loud students with character, knowledge, and parents' pride compete in the building on Carnegie in the glimmering sun of your well-honed mind. Unawares, they are inspired beyond all this with
More than enough.
opportunity.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Definitely. And as we get ready to round out, I think we have about 5 minutes left on the show. Oh, we're good. Okay, we're good. We're good. So please fill us in if you could share the history of Dorothy Ingram, Professor
Sure.
Tilton.
Yeah, so Dorothy Ingram's, from one of the older West Side
Yes.
African American families, right? They moved here before 1900. I'm not sure the
Yes.
exact date. And a lot of people remember Dorothy Ingram because she was such a powerful teacher in the Valley Truck Farms community, right? And San Bernardino had kind of two centers of Black community life early on. The West Side, which is where the Ingrams lived and had a grocery store and were, members of St. Paul AME.
Yes.
Really until she passed at 106.
I used to go to St. Paul AME,
Right.
and you could see her there. And
Right. So, right, she-
standing stall and
Yeah.
walking,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Today,
Yeah.
that's
and
beautiful.
her brother, one of her brothers, one of her siblings, was also, a very prominent doctor, one of the first African American doctors in the city. Delivered almost all the babies on the West Side.
There you go.
And so, they were an incredibly important family. And I think because she was also on the West Side, but because she was the teacher at Mill School in the Valley Truck Farm, she's also, and her autobiography helps us kind of tell the story of that community, which is a really
Yes.
important community in the history of the city. I mean, I think it's a little bit like Allensworth, right? It was a Black community founded in the 20s. And, you know, as one of the few places that Black folks could buy substantial amounts of property, a lot of folks moved from LA seeking more space and opportunity, less hemmed in by the boundaries of segregation. And the Valley Truck Farms and the West Side were sort of the two places they could live in San Bernardino. And the Valley Truck Farms really grew, and at least some people were marketing it at the time as a place where Black folks could be autonomous, right?
Yes.
Who could escape the kind of strictures of racism by kind of feeding yourselves, by kind of being in community. And it was a super diverse community in the 30s. By the 50s, it was an all-Black community.
I hear you.
Yes.
Because white folks sort of left.
The white flag.
And then the boundaries were
But that community also sort of really lets us see. That community is now entirely Amazon warehouses, right? So over the last, there were a few interviews in the Bridges archive to tell the story of the Valley, and everyone talked about Dorothy Ingram and the inspiration she provided folks, right? Because pretty much everyone went on to, I mean, not everyone went on to college, but like folks were really quite successful.
Yes.
She insisted at a time when most schools not only didn't expect Black folks to go to college, but actively sort of worked against it. We're trying to train people
and
for
that's that opening
really limited, right? She was like, we're gonna invest in you and demand a lot, and so that sort of and sort of with Bobby Bivens too, like sort of recovering this history of these educators. There was this another woman. Oh crap, what's her name?
Which one? Oh, darn it! Oh my gosh!
Also from the Valley, Charity Looper. Miss Looper. So she also ran a kind of preschool and private elementary school in the Valley, where she kicked students' butts to learn as much as they can. And when kids would leave and go to regular school, they'd be like a grade or two ahead.
I believe you. Yes. Totally awesome.
And so just that kind of inspirational teacher. So we had a few stories of the Valley, but fortunately over the last year, we've had a really wonderful collaboration with St. Mark's Missionary Baptist Church to interview a lot more elders in the community who could help tell the history of the Valley, which is both a history of this incredible community building and supportive community, and also how that community was destroyed by zoning decisions, by the way it was sort of devalued by the city and the county, and seen as a space where, you know, you could put all the industry. And so now it's kind of all warehouses, and it's hard to see that history of that community.
It's almost been like
it's erased,
erased.
And then you would talk about trucks, and you talk about all the pollution. And
how that's often implemented in communities of color.
Yes.
And you know, some people don't. Well, some community members don't understand the importance of the environmental justice that we're talking about. For some, they don't understand that. But when you let them know that these things are directly affecting our health outcomes, and that we don't have to have these things here, and we must come together as a community.
The challenge is that it usually comes too late, like the property's already being bought. And
it's already been zoned, and deals have already been made unbeknownst to the community.
Unless you go to the city
the
meetings
or the board of suits,
you don't know until it's too late.
And that speaks to being
Even
engaged.
Then, they hide it in the
Sometimes.
the appendices and stuff.
And
so
it's
you
hard
really
to build
gotta
enough
study.
power to change
to
it,
fight
even
that.
if when it's
And they try to change it at the very end
when it's too late, it's already set in stone at that time, but they make it look like, right?
I'll just say one other thing, because the one thing that stands out to me about the Valley and the history of San Bernardino is that Black homeownership rates and property were high in the 1940s, right? Like Valley Truck Farm was like 65% Black homeowners, and the Black property ownership now is in the 30s, right? And so in some ways, over this, you know, it undoes that kind of notion of progress, like in terms of homeownership. It's not been progress; it's been actually a decline. And
I think we have enough time for that last piece.
Okay.
So if you go ahead and do your
All
thing.
righty. And so I just want to say, when we talked about people strategically planning for schools to fail, I kind of flipped things around in this poem and started with the books they inherited that with the torn pages, but how she worked it to something positive.
Amen.
The last one is a me poem, because I'm still working on some poems, but I haven't gotten there yet.
All right.
I moved away to Georgia for a while. And when I came back to teach, and that's when we were talking about me being a teacher at Pacific High School.
Go Pirates.
And
Thank you, sir.
Go
Cardinals.
and so I wanted to
And the
be
Cowboys.
I wanted to be an example for the students at Pacific that they could do also. Be. So this is called Groundswell.
Okay.
She burnt grass brown where sun can't see. She tree bark brown, her life a wild weed, growing in stubborn sidewalk cracks. Earthquake fault line cracks. Gray, hard, crooked road turning corners, not even sure if there's a destination, nor why she's walking. Must be the Santa Anas shoving her out. Dust brown air pushes up against blue dreams of St. Anthony's on 16th. None she plans to be. None black like she, walks to New Hope Missionary Baptist Church, walks on Sunday, eats chocolate manna voices. We are soldiers in the army. We got to fight, oh yes, we got to fight. Not sure who's the enemy, sometimes herself. Mama at work to clothe and feed, brother somewhere he ain't supposed to be. Latchkey, she walks to Namesake High School on E Street. First home of golden arches, blood red bird, concrete, crimson casket, classmates devoured by cracks. Most times she, watermelon in the desert, sticky red juice laughter, play softball and soul train dance over cracks. Study how to fly, flap, and dip, cardinal mascot. Reach altitudes to take her to junior community SBVC number 61 in Cali. CSUSB in front of classroom, she feeds new latchkeys. We are not a massacre, a most murderous statistic, a homeless den of hopelessness. We are not a nameless label of numbers, a terrorist attack on the map. We are home, sifted by the Santa Anas, brown pushing up into blue dreams. We are San Bernardino.
Hey now. Beautiful, beautiful. And the part that just, I guess is very special for me is that, you know, for those that may not know the history, we grew up different times, but grew up in the same house, right?
Yes.
Same
Oh,
location.
yes, yes,
So
yes,
seeing you,
yeah.
the walking, you know,
Yes.
the walking down there to the Rouse house, right? 2 houses down from St. Anthony's.
Yes.
Walking to, I used to ride the bike sometimes to San Bernardino High School, right?
Yes.
So it's like I could see myself. I have walked those routes.
And weren't we thin and in shape back then?
We look good. We still look good. But we, you know, and we still honing the temple. You know what I mean? But it's good to be alive today.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's it. Amen. With that being said, how can people learn more about the projects and connect to the websites and everything like that? And
great.
then you had an event that you wanted to plug as well.
Oh, yes.
And, and we're getting close.
Yeah, so 2 ways. If you Google Bridges That Carried Us Over project, it will take you straight to Cal State San Bernardino's website with all the oral histories. More are going to be going up every couple weeks this fall, so there's a huge amount of them that should be available. More photos too. And if you want to see some of the stories and the historical stories, you can also just Google People's History of the IE story maps, and there are a whole bunch of collected stories with maps and photos that tell some of the Black history of the
And
IE.
there's also a Facebook page, I believe, as well.
There's also
Yes.
a Facebook page, yeah, right. So follow IE Black History on Facebook or Instagram.
Yes.
And there's a whole bunch of older posts, and then we're trying to keep it up, but, it's hard to keep
and
doing.
thank you for putting
Yeah.
this online because
Yeah.
I know he doesn't like AI, but I know in the future they're going to go after all this information and pull it
They're
together.
already doing
and
stuff
you'll be
like
able to
that.
see it, the different types and where it's different. And for the
Yes.
historian, it's going to be like we can see all the different pieces and because newspapers.com has so much contradictory information and
Yes.
all, you know.
Yes.
So we need to see it all. I want to see
Definitely.
everything.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And with this last minute, if you could go ahead and
Okay, I have two things. One, I run a writing workshop through Inlandia, and we're getting ready to start up again September 17th. So if you go on Inlandia Institute, you can see where to sign up if you're interested in poetry writing workshops. The other thing is the Black Arts Museum is having they're having an event. And this event is going to be on October 19th from noon to 3.
All right.
And I have it posted on my Instagram and also my Facebook and my website.
all right.
And
What's
so,
the name of the website?
Oh, Poet Romaine. Oh, wait a minute.
I am Romaine.
No, wait. That I am Romaine Washington is my Facebook.
Okay.
Poet Romaine is my Instagram at Poet Romaine, and then RomaineWashington.com is my
Okay.
website.
Definitely.
That's the
Awesome.
one I want. All right.
Definitely. And definitely. And then also want to shout out the 8th annual Chillin' and Grillin' happening this Saturday, the 14th at the Jesse Turner Center, because I know you interview Ellen Turner, and I work with them with the Concerned Citizens for the Development of North Montana. So that's happening from 11 to 3 p.m. this Saturday. Come out, $10 entry, get your barbecue.
Yeah. And this is Robert Porter and Ippy on the Lockup with the I Love San Bernardino County Radio Show, and we are
Out of here.
NBC News on KCAA